Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about a couple of trends that have happened since the evil orange man won the 2024 presidential election, and that is on the internet.com, people deciding to push out and promote the 4B movement, which is modeled after a Korean feminist movement back in 2019, and of course, this more extreme sort of trend. There are some isolated examples of it where women are getting sterilization procedures in response to the 2024 presidential election. And as absurd and ridiculous as this sounds, apparently people are doing it. They're willing to speak to newspapers and explain their reasoning, and their reasoning is insane in every possible way. So that's what I want to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So I think it's important for me to explain the 4B movement for those of you out there in the audience who are unaware of what this is. And essentially this was something that sprouted up in South Korea in around 2019, where women swore off dating, sex, marriage, and having children. Now, of course, this was done for feminist reasons. And while it is funny to point out that after this movement came into existence in 2019, by 2021, the South Korean birth rate dropped lower than in the history of all of recorded human civilization, and thus they are a dying civilization. But in reality, the two are actually not connected, although maybe the inspiration that led this to come into being back in 2019 among South Korean feminists ultimately ended up causing what was the drop in birth rates in 2021, but it wasn't the movement one-to-one that caused this. But I do find it kind of amusing that immediately after a presidential election doesn't go the way these woke feminist idiots on TikTok want, they decide that they're going to model their feminist movement after something that at least coincides with the destruction of the South Korean civilization. Again, these people, not the best advocates for their position, not really the people that you want to share a nation with, because they want to destroy all of our civilization in order to get back at people who voted the wrong way. However, let's give you a little bit of a breakdown, a little bit of the perspective from that side, from this Inside Edition segment, because maybe, just maybe, you will be swayed by them.
In the wake of Donald Trump's historic win, there's a new movement sweeping America. Disappointed women are actually swearing off men.
There's no way I am letting any man near me for the next few years.
Now look, it would be very easy for me, Sean Fitzgerald, owner and content creator of the Actual Justice Warrior channel, to look at the individuals that are promoting the 4B movement, look at a statement where somebody is saying there would be no way that she wants to let a man near her in the next 4 years, and then say, no great loss. But honestly, we are above that. We're not going to make petty personal jokes like that. I'm just going to talk about making jokes, thus make the joke, and then pretend like I didn't, and then move along.
They're saying no to dating, no to marriage, no to sex.
Celibacy, at least to me, isn't that hard.
And no to having children.
Like so many other women in America who have been considering trying to get pregnant, I woke up today and said, nope. Not anymore.
Now look, I think it is very notable right off the top for me to point out that, like many a bad social media trends, this one happens to start on TikTok.com, because you can see all the different various TikTok handles, not to mention these are vertical videos. But I will also mention that this woman does not sound all that serious to me, although we are going to go into a New York Post article where people are taking very serious steps in just a moment, because she said, look, for those of us who are thinking about maybe considering at some point in the future possibly getting pregnant, I woke up this morning and I said no. In reality, I would like to believe that if you are somebody who is looking to have children, if that was a goal in your mind, then you would not be swayed away from said goal by a presidential election. But the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, we have a lot of deranged people that are getting validated on social media that will make life-changing decisions based on who wins the presidency. And in the interest of fairness, I do want to point out that Laura Loomer, who is a very pro-Trump person, actually tweeted out there is no point in having children unless Trump gets elected, because essentially it would be the end of the world if he did not get elected. Now, to be 100% clear for everybody out there in the audience, the President of the United States should not change your family structure. You should not let politics bleed into your day-to-day lives in this way, and this is obviously a symptom, and it is more prominent on the left wing, of religion being replaced with politics. I'm somebody who's not religious myself, but you know what? Even though I'm concerned and I care about politics, I talk about it for a living. The fact of the matter is, it is not the be-all, end-all. It is not what I need to replace that empty feeling that some people face once they reject religion. And again, if you do so, then you're just wrong. You're absurd in every possible way, and everything about this movement is absurd. Because of course, like many a left-wing movement, this also comes with the idea that you have to ugly yourself up beyond all belief. And a perfect example of this is the people that are shaving their heads in solidarity with the 4B movement.
This woman is actually shaving her head in protest. It's being called the 4B movement, and women are taking to social media declaring their allegiance.
Now look, overall, this obviously has no impact on my life personally. I happen to be married to my wife. My wife happens to not be an insane person, so I don't have to worry about her one day shaving her head and deciding that she has to swear off all men due to the fact that a political outcome happened. However, these people are shaving their heads. It is ridiculous. Some people have taken note of the fact that celebrities are doing this as well, like Brie Larson, and her haircut does not look good. Let's be perfectly honest about that. And to me, this is just yet another symptom of the mass mental illness that is impacting the American people, specifically young girls, and in this case, it goes into older women, and it is a major problem. It is something that is causing a big fracture in society, and obviously, women need to chill the hell out. That being said, I do find it amusing that many of these women have decided that they're not going to tell the males that they interact with that they're engaging in this 4B movement. Instead, they're trying to say, actually, I'm waiting for the right person, no sex until marriage, and essentially trying to comply with the Christian conservative orthodoxy, at least publicly, which I find to be amusing because many religious people want this from women in the first place. So your resistance against your perceived religious theocracy that is taking over via the Republican Party is to outwardly comply with this supposed religious theocracy that is taking over via the Republican Party. Again, not coherent, but what do we expect? These are a bunch of crazy people, and I find it very odd that Inside Edition is promoting this kind of behavior. But that being said, promoting behaviors that are destructive to Western civilization is not very atypical in American media.
The 4B movement was actually started by women in South Korea back in 2019 as part of their version of the Me Too movement. The number 4 refers to dating, marriage, sex, and children.
This movement's way more important now than ever.
26-year-old Alexa Vargas joined the movement 2 years ago and expects a surge of interest in the wake of the Trump victory. So you, in 2022, swore off dating forever.
Not forever. We're not going to settle for low-value men that don't respect us anymore.
You know what I love about this, if I'm being perfectly honest? First and foremost, of course, they have to interview an OG behind this particular movement, somebody who copied this off of the South Koreans before Trump even won the election. This was based on the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and how excited she is as an internet influencer that she's going to be able to increase her following based on the fact that after the evil orange man, you are going to gain all of these different people that are interested in resisting the evil orange man. But of course, and this should be perfectly obvious to everyone out there in the audience, this is just what is labeled as the right-wing extremist group MGTOW, but for women. So essentially, this is WGTOW. And if you guys aren't familiar, MGTOW is men going their own way. And the premise of that is that women have made society so bad for men that they have to reject women. Yes, this is a very short explanation of this, but this is the exact same thing. It's over politics, and it is just ridiculous and absurd. And it is comical, and I am expecting this to not gain all that much traction, despite the fact that you have people in the mainstream media that are promoting this.
Not forever. We're not going to settle for low-value men that don't respect us anymore.
But lots of women are mocking the no marriage, no sex movement.
Wait, that woman was cutting her hair off? Oh, bold.
Wild.
The fact that these crazos are out here, they're like, we're not touching men. I hope that means more for me.
Now, I also think it's funny that this woman is saying, look, it's not forever, and she hasn't shaved her head like many a people, and then Inside Edition ends up cutting to all these different various people who are mocking these individuals who are participating in this movement, because in reality and actuality, what this is the lashing out of the woke, overly college-educated white woman at the system, raging against the machine, but obviously having no direction for it. And obviously, shaving your head, trying to go celebrate, embracing this movement and all of that for a couple of years is not permanent. But the reason why I'm doing this story is that even beyond this, there are people who are telling the New York Post that they're sterilizing themselves based on the fact that the evil orange man won the election and that we are facing a Handmaid's Tale-like society, a Handmaid's Tale-like future. So we go to the New York Post with the headline that says, "These women are getting sterilized and blaming Trump for their decision. Election tied my hands." Now, obviously, this headline on its face is incredibly stupid, but you do have people that are being interviewed in this particular article. Some of them are older and likely weren't going to have children in the first place, so no big deal, but they do have a couple of younger women, and the issues that they cite, the rationale for this, is so disconnected to reality, it's honestly mind-boggling. But then again, we have a nation of 300 million people. A huge proportion of the people in our nation are absolute idiots. Some of them, again, replace religion with politics, so this is to be expected when you have a society that is, again, full of idiots. So the article reads as follows: "These women are getting elective surgical procedures to render themselves infertile, all because Donald Trump won the election." The women who are speaking proudly about their decision say it's because they fear a reproductive rights crackdown under a second Trump administration. Newsweek recently spoke to multiple women who say they are turning to invasive, irreversible medical procedures to ensure their reproductive freedom remains untrodden upon. You know, every once in a while, I read a couple of sentences in a row, and I think to myself, this can't get any dumber. This can't get any worse. But unfortunately, for those of you out there in the audience, this article is about to get significantly dumber. It's about to get more depressing. And some of the women's ages that were interviewed in the Newsweek article that the New York Post is talking about is honestly kind of tragic. Now, of course, some people are going to say, well, if liberals don't want to reproduce, then guess what? That's perfectly fine, because conservatives will win the culture. When in reality, what's actually going to happen is that these people who don't ever utilize their maternal instincts are going to essentially be trying to police your children through public policy, which is what we see time and time again. Now, let us get a little bit more into it so you can hear how crazy this actually is. Quote, "If I am denied any rights in the next 4 or more years, I will not give them up without a fight," said Lydia Eccles, 28, a Texas woman making plans for a procedure which her fallopian tubes will be removed. An unidentified 39-year-old woman who had just gotten the procedure told the outlet that she felt she had no choice after the election results. Look, I just want to point out a couple of things. First and foremost, it is medically irresponsible to perform these procedures on mentally ill people that have no logical and rational basis for what they're doing. So somebody probably needs to look into that, because the Hippocratic Oath, which is something that medical professionals take, is to do no harm. And if somebody comes in to your medical office and says, "I need you to remove my fallopian tubes," and you ask them why, and they say, well, the reason why, you might not understand this, is because the orange man won the election, and that means no reproductive rights for the next 4 years, you as a doctor should be responsible and say no. But unfortunately, this appears to not be what is happening. That being said, you have the second person, age 38, again, likely not to have any future children in the first place, saying, look, I had to do what I had to do. I felt like I had no choice after the election because all your reproductive decisions have gone asunder post the evil orange man winning. Now, of course, I will point out that she was able to walk into a medical facility and get a consensual medical procedure, and the reason why is because that is just not the case. But the quotes actually get even worse. Quote, "I'm not happy that I felt forced into a surgery that I did not want to alter my body. I feel like the election tied my hands and forced me to be sterilized. That is horrible." Okay, lady that I don't know that just had this irreversible medical procedure, Nobody tied your hands. Nobody forced you to do that. You say, I feel horrible that I felt forced in order to get this procedure, but I need you to understand this, which is you felt forced to get this procedure because you're not smart, because you're not intelligent, because you are a ridiculous human being. And in addition to that, you're basing the decisions about your body, you're basing the decisions about your future, about what procedures you actually spend money on a fictional Hulu series. And no, I'm not kidding about this. Of course, The Handmaid's Tale is referenced in this article. Another woman who said she and her husband both never wanted children described her decision using language straight out of a dystopian novel and TV series, quote, The Handmaid's Tale, in which women are second-class citizens. Quote, I paid way too much attention to the vitriol Trump repeatedly spit during his previous term, and I'm keenly aware of the people he keeps around him and in his ear who all seem to see women as incubators and possessions to subjugate, she told the outlet. She had preemptively scheduled her appointment to be sterilized in October, claiming that she was fully planning to cancel the surgery the day after the election, assuming Kamala won. In describing her choice to Newsweek, the woman used language that suggested the elective surgery was forced upon her. Quote, with Trump's victory, we quickly learned that my choice to cancel the surgery had been taken from me, she said. This isn't a wanted procedure, but one of necessity due to the politics and subjugation coming our way. I don't even know what to say to this. I don't even want to keep reading this New York Post article, and honestly, I'm going to stop reading this New York Post article. If you are out there in the world and you're under the impression that Donald J. Trump, Donald John Trump, the man who has been married at 3 different times, the man who cheated on each of his wives with his future wife, is going to impose a Christian nationalist dictatorship a la the fictitious Handmaid's Tale, and he's going to force women to essentially be incubators passed around between elite males, then what are you even doing with your life? And in addition to that, the complete and utter disassociation from your own life is also incredibly troubling. Well, I felt like the choice was completely out of my hands because the evil orange man won the election, and this is the only alternative that I can possibly think of as something to do, because the evil orange man is gonna Handmaid's Tale me, and I'm gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna cut myself off from ever being able to have children because I don't want to be Handmaid's Tailorized like what will happen if Trump will win the election. And what's even more sad is that almost all the women that are interviewed in the Newsweek piece that are highlighted by the New York Post are old enough to remember the first Trump term, are old enough to remember that we didn't do the Handmaid's Tale. I know it came out on Hulu, and it was a big hit for these people, and they watched it, but the funny thing about that is that the Handmaid's Tale author actually based the society around what she saw in Iran post the Islamic Revolution, and the idea was like, what if this happened in the United States of America, but also I'm gonna make it more Christian in the United States of America, because that's the dominant religious group, so it's complete and utter fiction from top to bottom. But for some reason, these people are actually making life-altering decisions based on that, and I understand everybody's gonna say, you know what, Sean, these people, these human beings are good. We don't want them to have children because they're gonna have lefty progressive children, but it's still sad, especially when you realize that politics can change, people's perceptions can change, and you're just removing your ability to have choice in the future, all in the name of reproductive rights and choice. This is absurd. If you were ever under the impression that a huge portion of the pro-choice movement wasn't about just being anti-human, unfortunately, this disabuses you of that notion. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support reviews, support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about this craziness. Till next time.